Hello, my friends. John LaRuffa here with another Straight Up Solo. And in this episode, we're going to be taking a look at Glen 2 Chronicles with the Highland games expansion and seeing how the solo mode plays and seeing if it's something that you would like to pursue strictly from a solo perspective. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the gameplay and show you kind of how it integrates with the base game, and then I'll tell you what I think about it. All right, and as usual, folks, please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, as that's the only way I'm going to get more subscribers, plain and simple. Okay, so we've got a game kind of, maybe the first third is done right now, set up. And from a base game standpoint, you see the board over here where you're taking your selection of tiles, like the rondelle of tiles, the stacks of different tiles that come out as you go. This big, complex looking, but not complex at all, guild tracker, where you, or clan tracker, I guess you could say, where you're getting some of these one-time or forever in the game bonuses when you take a person. All of these different resources here. And then up here you've got some other things. You've got some components depending on whether you are playing with different chronicles. In this case, I've got Chronicle number 1 mixed in, so that's the boat race one, which when you play with the solo game, you add these additional rivers to kind of give the boats, which are right here, a more of a feel like a multiplayer 3 or 4 player game. And actually the boat race hasn't even started yet. Here is the start tile. So it's for the purpose of the example, you won't even see any of that in action, which is fine. Then you've got this deck of cards here that has more basically just art and a depiction of what certain landmarks and different things do. So for instance, if you get Donan Castle here, you get a Donan Castle card, and that tells you what you're doing. In this case, you take one of these actions up here. Notice the icon similarity, and you basically activate one of those clans. Now, the AI has a special board over here, which helps you manage what she, in this case, is doing. And so she has this deck of cards right here. These are actually discarded. They make you put the discards face down because you don't always go through all the cards at the beginning of the game, and every time you reshuffle, you randomly discard 2, so you don't know exactly what's going to come out, which is nice and clever and easy to do. And then you get also these cards here if you're playing with a specific chronicle. So for instance, I'm playing with Chronicle 1, and so what this does is it says, here's the additional rules for the chronicle, and I'll get back to that, why I think it's pretty clever as we show some gameplay. Here you've got a priority, a variable priority set of chits that will help you help the AI prioritize certain moves that would get her more points versus others, depending on the area or basically the item majority, I guess you could say, because most of the points in this game are scored based on the difference of what you have. All right, and we'll tell about that in a second. And so that's basically what you've got now. The gameplay in this game is fairly straightforward once you read all of the little nuances, and there's not even that many nuances, really. I'd say half the rule book is taken up by the different chronicles you can mix in. So the base game is pretty standard and straightforward as far as the type of gameplay you have, and then the chronicles add little bits of flavor. So what you're going to do in your turn, you're always going to see who is kind of at the caboose of this chain of people here, and whoever's in the back is going to take their turn. Now, in a solo game or a 2-player game, or even a 3 if you want, you use this die, and the die is really simple. When it's the die's turn, you roll a die, and it says 2. So I go 2 tiles in front, 1, 2, and I simply remove that tile from the game. Very easy to add some uncertainty, which you need in this game. So that's a B tile, it's gone. And then after I do that, like at the end of every turn, I go ahead and I add another tile. It's really that simple. That always happens. That just basically makes sure that you can't guarantee what you're going to get. The gameplay loop is on your turn, like I said, when you're in the back, you basically will either claim a tile or you will claim a person. And you'll do that by moving up and landing on it. When you land on it, if the tile has no costs in the upper left. You get it for free. And if it has some cost, you have to pay that cost. And then you're going to play that tile in your area, which I'll show you in a second. There's some simple placement rules. And then it activates all the tiles around it as well. So being it's the AI's turn now, she is going to draw the next card from her deck. And this card is going to have a couple of different areas. First of all, this top area is just basically going to either nothing, or it's going to move her clan priority markers down one space on the blue and the purple. And what that does is basically it allows the AI at certain points to potentially purchase, or I would say claim, clan spots with these red things right there, denying them from me, and also opening up the board a little bit, because in this game, you don't have to just claim from where you are. You can claim from wherever someone is, and you pay the difference in coins. Like if I wanted to get this one here and claim the Grant clan, I wouldn't have to pay from here to here to here. She's already got something. I would just have to pay 2 coins to get it. So that's a very easy way for that to simulate the gameplay. Then if there is a special chronicle action with the C here, you would take it if there was something in here. So for instance, I think this last one had like a 1 in it, yeah. So this 1 would apply to anything in the Chronicle 1, or well, actually what you do is you'd look at this card and say, okay, what does the 1 mean? Oh, it means that I have to do something here. And in this case, these rules haven't even turned on yet because the boat race hasn't started. So the nice thing about this is that with these extra cards, and there's 1 per Chronicle, this deck functions to let you play with almost all the Chronicles, one of them being an exception, which requires 3 or 4 players. And so I think that's fantastic. Just with the simple addition of something here and sometimes over here, these little cards will help you be able to have a full game experience with all the different expansions, of which there are 12 different Chronicles. And you get, there's 12. The 12th is the solo player, and you can't use one of them. So I guess you're going to get 10 different expansions out of this little deck, which is fantastic. Okay, after that, then, what you're going to do is you're going to execute this spot right here, which is basically going to tell you what is the AI going to do. And the AI is going to look 3 tiles ahead, in this case, and pick, in order of left to right, the one that matches this icon. And if that's not available, then this. And if that's not available, then this, etc. And if none of those are available, then they're going to go to their priority down here, and they're going to pick the tile that way. And if none of those are available, then they're just going to take tile number 2. So it makes it pretty simple. You're going to go out and scan here. Okay, 3 tiles, right? 1, 2, 3. Well, let's look in the upper right-hand corner and see. Does she need a box? She does not need a box. She's looking for a trade tile, a person, or a barrel, okay? Well, there are no trade tiles, there are no persons, and there are no barrels, as you can see here. So with none of that, now we go to and there was a person, but it was just out of reach. It was tile number 4, and we're only looking at tile number 3. So then we go to the priorities, and the priorities, again, are based on how the scoring rounds happen, and basically wherever there is a greater difference in the scores, whether it's you or the AI, they will focus on that to try to either increase their lead or decrease your lead, which works really good in both ways. And where there's not a focus, they kind of generally ignore that a little bit, where there's not a difference, I should say. So let's see if we've got any castles or town tiles. Well, it just so happens we do have a town tile. We have a town tile right here. This is an overbuild tile, but don't worry about that. That's a specific thing for the solo game. In the multiplayer game, you don't actually worry about overbuilding. Now, the little bit of difference is in the boat race game, you are going to have, wherever you have a spot, as it says right here, wherever you have one of these tiles that has a river, excuse me, you're actually going to build it. So in this case, we are actually going to build it. We're going to put it there. We're not going to overbuild, because in the rules it says don't do that. You just put it in the stack. Now there might be a clarification. I might actually have to put it on top of this, but I don't know 100%. I'll look at it later. That's not the point. Point is that it's still extending that boat race. And because it was this type of tile, we look to see what does that actually do for us. Well, in the case of the AI, it does not show anything that really happens with that kind of tile. And so we look down here to see, is there anything over here from an instant side of thing? And yes, there is. So we have to put a person in their area, and we also have to draw a card for this spot, okay? And so first we're going to put a person down. They're going to actually add one of their Scotsmen to this, and this will help with their majority scoring at a score round. And then we're going to go find the Inverness, card over here, which will most likely be difficult to find. Oh, look at that at the very back. Okay, and now we don't do anything for the AI to get the card. They just get the card, and that'll, again, help in that majority scoring situation. And that's it. That's their turn. I forgot to move their person here to take the deck, or take the tile, and they flip it over. It's really that simple. And then you go ahead and you discard this. Okay? So then on my turn, I get my decision of where I want to go. And unlike other games, you can go all the way around if you want to, almost all the way around. You can go to that tile, but whoever's in the back is going to be the one to go next. Now, the interesting thing about this game is that you're like, well, why don't I just snag up as many tiles as I possibly can? If they go forward, I'll just grab everything else. Because at the end of the game, you count the number of tiles that you have, and you compare it to the number of tiles that your opponent has, and you lose 3 points for every tile more than you have. And if the other way around, if you have less than she does, she loses 3 points. So it's not just about hoarding tiles, it's about being efficient and kind of keeping right in line with what the other person's doing, which I think is pretty cool. So it puts some pressure on you to not just sandbag and grab as many tiles as possible. Sometimes you want to do that, but you better be sure it's going to be worth that point negative at the end if you come up heavy, I guess you'd say. So on my turn, I'm actually going to decide to take this tile right here, and I will put my guy on it, I'll pick it up, and then I will place it someplace in my town area. Now, it has to be placed within some area, orthogonal or diagonal to one of my Scotsmen, which means I can put it down here, 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 or I can put it here, here, and here, because I have Scotsman over there and Scotsman over there. Okay, and then when you place it down, it's going to activate all the tiles next to it. So for this case, I'm going to put it here, all right? And then it's going to activate itself and every other tile in a square around it. So potentially itself and 8 other tiles. So when it activates itself, it's going to give me a cattle over here. I'm going to get another wheat. I'm going to get a stone. And I'm going to be able to use this. I'm going to turn 1 wheat anywhere on my board into a whiskey barrel, which is good because whiskey barrels are one of the things that we have to compare in a scoring round. And that is the end of my turn. And then, because all of us have skipped this tile, this goes away, so you don't have things hanging on, going around and clogging things up. And then I replace tiles all the way down until we get within 1 space of the end of that person train. And that's it. So the other things you could do on your turn, at any time, you can buy or sell from the market. So I could buy, I could buy a cow for 2, or I could sell a cow for 1, or cattle or whatever. And the same thing with all those. And with the way the AI works is it will always make sure that you can have at least 1 coin there. So let's say I bought this wheat this time, or let's say I sold a wheat for 1 coin. Next time it would clear that spot out and put a coin there to allow me to sell again. And actually in the rules it says to make it simpler, you can actually just put your goods there to make it more visually simple, like, okay, I'm going to exchange that good there for 2 coins, or I'm going to exchange that 2 coins for a good, just to make it easier to actually execute and kind of think of for your first couple of games. All right, so that's it. So what's going to happen is at the end of, whenever you place the last tile in each of these stacks, you're going to do a scoring round. Okay, what you're going to do that is the person's going to finish their turn, and then you're going to basically have a scoring round right then and there. So sometimes it happens mid-turn because you're placing multiple, but basically you pause the game right there, and you do a scoring round. I guess it doesn't really happen mid-turn. But when you do that, you basically score in these areas right here. You're going to score for the person who has the most people in their home castle, which in this case is right here for me, and it's just there for them. So if we were to score this right now, it would be 2 and 2. There's no difference, so no points would be awarded. Then you're going to score for how many landmark areas that you have. Well, I have 1, and they have 2. In that case, I would give them 1 point out of the point thing. And then we would look over here to see, do I do anything with this spot right here? Well, if I've only scored 1 or 2, or they've only scored 1 or 2, it stays where it is. But that one when I scored 0, okay, for the castle and for the people, that would actually go all the way over here to the back. And then at the end, when we're finished scoring all 4 categories, it would establish a new priority order. You also score for barrels, so I would score 1, they would get nothing. And then you score for number of people. I have 1 person, they have 1 person, and then there you go for that. Now, the other thing you do is they will get trade tiles through this game, and the trade tiles are the ones that have this symbol on them, and they will trade some of their stone as a wild card to get the maximum amount of victory points they could get. And right now, in the beginning of the game, you don't have a ton of those out there, but this works for a way for them to score a lot of points, simulating them activating their trading throughout the game, which is really good. When they get the tile, they immediately get the maximum amount of points once, which is what they show here. See how it shows that maximum point 1 time, not this. So you get that once. Oh, you know what? No wonder, I gotta check on that. I think that's the minimum amount of points once. I've been hosing myself. Yeah, sorry. So it's the one that's in the left, the first time you get it. But when you go to play it later on, they always trade for the one that's the most. But when they trade, they don't trade all of their stuff down. They only trade 1 away. So even if it says trade 5 for 7 points or something like that, they only ever lose 1, which makes the scoring round pretty solid. They also collect, when you are getting either the trade tiles or these type of tiles, extra stone to kind of build up their coffers here for trading. So that is how they simulate a lot of the, turn this into that in this game that you will do normally and naturally. So that's the whole thing. Now at the end of the game, you will compare the scores. Oh, and one more thing, pardon me. Depending on the difficulty, they will also score points for each unit of whatever it is in here, they will score 1 point depending on your difficulty level. This game has, I think, five difficulty levels. I played it on the normal one thus far, and I got trounced, but this is also the first time I played the game, so, I probably did not do the best from a strategy standpoint. But anyway, let me go back and tell you what I think about it, pluses and minuses. Okay, so that should give you a pretty good understanding of the way the game plays, the way the solo method works, and just how you execute it. So from a positive standpoint, I'll start with those first. First of all, some aesthetics. The game looks beautiful. I mean, I played the original 10 years ago when it came out, and it looked okay. This game looks phenomenal. Artwork is great. Cards look thematic. Pieces are good. All the components are fantastic. They're also very easy to understand. Even though it's language independent, the symbols aren't scratch your head. What does this mean? The exception is there is some learning on some of the cards with some of those icons, but it's all summarized nicely in an appendix. It's easily found right in the rule book, so you can just keep that open until you get the hang of it. Secondly, the ease of play. The cards for the bot make it very difficult, or very very easy to figure out what she is going to choose. And so you don't have to spend time with difficult choices for her, like if this and that. You're basically just scanning through and seeing which is the right one in this priority, and then boom, there it goes. It lists it nice on the card. And that variable priority system there on the board helps too, helps the AI figure out what they want to do. And sometimes those icons and that variable priority are flipped back and forth. So it doesn't always go through those icons first and then to the priority. I think that's good because it keeps the game from getting broken or lopsided where they're focused on the wrong thing too much. But so far, and I've only played it a little bit, the AI has put up one solid fight and done a great job scoring and a great job leading to some uncertainty. That die that you roll in the middle, or it just removes tiles. That's also a great great source of tension and uncertainty, because that die has a couple of ones, a few twos, and 1 3, I think it is. So you know it's not going to go any further than 3 out there, but if it removes the one you want, and it has an uncanny knack of doing that, you sit there with, I guess I should have taken the time and the chance that I did when I did, and not and gotten the tile that I wanted and not just ignored it. So I like that mechanic too. And overall, the game is just enjoyable. I really enjoy playing this game. There's a ton of those Chronicles to spice things up and to add variety. If it was just the base game, I could definitely see that after a few plays, we'd kind of get a little bit samey. But it's not. You get so many things you can flip in there and try out and add. It's not just one Chronicle or another. You could add multiple if you wanted. Now, you wouldn't want to add them all. That would, I think, blow your brain, and it would also probably dilute the experience. But you could probably try different combinations as you get going. And some of them in the expansion seem like they are, in the Highland Games expansion, seem like they really change it into kind of a different game entirely. And I haven't gotten to those yet. So that's what I like too, that there is a lot to explore here. I also like the fact that it's not just a beat your own score. It is a competition against a variable difficulty autonomous opponent, which is good. And she puts up a good fight. Negatives, I don't really see any, in my opinion. Now, again, if you don't like this style of game with the rondelle choosing, then you're not going to like it. But I don't have a lot of negatives, to be honest. It's fun to play. It's easy to play. It takes about 45 minutes-ish to an hour to do solo, and I bet it'll be faster once I don't have to look at the appendix to notice the expansions, or I'm sorry, not the expansions, but the icons in some cases. There's just a lot to explore. I think it's a winner. And it's been worth the wait. I've been waiting for this game for quite some time. I backed it on Kickstarter, which seems like forever ago. And it just came out, maybe a couple weeks before I made this video. But it's been a fantastic addition to my library. I'm going to keep it. So my recommendation is, if you like this sort of game, the AI experience will not clog or bog down the way you play it. And it will also help you experience the full game. There's that one, I think it's Hammer of the Scots, that doesn't work with it. 3 or 4 players is the way it needs to go. And I thought originally when I was reading the rules, well, maybe I can find a way to, make it work. But you know what? I don't even know what that is. And there's so much in the box to explore. I'm not too worried about that one little thing that does not work. So 9% of the Chronicles don't work. So what? You get the other 91%. So that's my thoughts. I hope this has been informative. Whatever you play in the future, I hope you enjoy it. And thank you so much for watching. Take care.